The Parable of the Spider. I can do anything, said the spider. She spun a ring, she spun a tunnel, she spun a picture of the whole world. She made the prettiest cobwebs. Not everything can be woven, whispered the spirit of the forest. Nonsense, replied the spider. Not only can everything be woven, but I can teach everyone how to weave. Bring me someone, and I will teach them how to weave. And so the spirit brought her the babbling brook. But the more the spider tried to get the brook to weave, the more the brook sputtered, gurgled, and splashed water at the spider. The brook is stubborn, declared the spider to the spirit. Bring me a creature less stubborn. So the spirit brought the spider an ant, who worked tirelessly, pushing twigs and dew. But when the spider tried to show him her web, the ant just got stuck and had to be freed by his friends. Now do you believe that not everyone can weave? Said the spirit, trying not to tinkle with her laughter. Well, that only makes them useless. And since the spider believed that anything could be woven out of thread, she added, so why have any creatures other than spiders in the world? The spirit thought this was interesting and decided that, just for one night, she would turn all the creatures of the world into spiders. The babbling brook was turned into a dark hollow filled with tunneling spiders. The ants on the anthill became a mess of little spiders on an untidy heap of cobwebs. The shadows of the forest grew long and shivery. It was the creepiest, webby sight. Strangely, even our spider didn't like it, but she decided to make the most of things and called all the crawlies together for a special meeting. We want to weave the greatest web ever, she declared. What is it designed to catch? Asked a little red spider. Nothing. Well, every web is designed to catch something, so it won't be a good web. A web is always a trap. The others agreed by clicking their pincer-like fangs. But it'll be beautiful, said our spider. How? Asked the young widow. Beauty requires variety, and we only have one thread. At this our spider began to feel rather sad. It was true. She could only build traps, and using only one thread. Perhaps her weaving wasn't really worth that much at all. I have the answer, said the red spider brightly. Until this evening's magic, she'd been a clever little fox, and though she was enjoying her evening as a spider, she was keen to scurry through the forest as a fox again. We can trap ideas, she explained. We can weave a picture that tells all the other creatures what wonderful things they could be doing. We will weave guides. We will show the brook how best to babble, and the ants how best to build. Then tomorrow, when the world is back to normal, the creatures will always know what to do and how to do it. So it will be, in a sense, as though the spiders have woven everything. The next morning, as the forest was waking up and the creatures were back to their true selves, the spirit flew through the forest and was amazed. Everywhere were the most beautiful dew-jeweled cobwebs with pictures of all the beings of the forest doing what they did best. The brook was babbling merrily, the ants were building neatly, the ivy was growing high and winding. The spider who had insisted she could do anything had woven signs everywhere for all the creatures to follow. I apologize, the spirit told the spider. I understand what you mean now. You can create the idea that gets others to change the world. You can indeed do anything. The spider smiled and kept on weaving her webs. The Parable of the Mosquito. All day long the mosquito sucked. She pricked here and there, she pinched, she drank. There was a napping horse she liked to bite. The horse didn't fight back, didn't try to slap the mosquito away. But one day the horse looked at the mosquito, dead in the eyes, and asked, Why do you do this? Why do you waste your life away, sucking?" The mosquito stopped. She didn't know. She didn't even enjoy sucking. It was just something that she did at this point. The horse gazed at her. "Do you ever think there's more to life than just sucking?" The mosquito imagined that there must be. "But what?" she asked. "You could make some baby mosquitoes," suggested the horse. No, the mosquito had already done that. She never saw them. "You could go out and play with your friend mosquitoes," offered the horse. No, all the other mosquitoes ever wanted to do was drink and suck too. It was a vicious cycle. The horse pondered the problem. "Did you ever have a dream of doing something else, something completely different?" The mosquito stared. She had indeed once had such a dream. She told the horse about it. She dreamed that she had stood under a tree, and the tree had told her how to live forever. "I think you should follow your dream," said the horse. So the mosquito withdrew her needle from the horse, and oh, it felt good not to suck anymore. And she flew up, higher and higher, feeling the beloved warmth of the sun, the gentle stickiness of the rain, and the freedom of not being attached to sucking anymore. Soon she found a tree. Oh, it was the perfect tree, just like the one she had dreamed of. She stood under it and listened, waiting for the tree to talk to her. The sun broke the rain, setting the tree aglow. It was then that the mosquito heard it, a warm hum, rich like the earth, rumbling through the tree, the hum of moisture swelling through the wood. The tree wasn't whispering exactly, it was being. It expressed a pearl of perfect coppery red, a tiny globe that rolled down the trunk and wrapped itself completely around the mosquito. The mosquito lived forever and never sucked again. The Parable of the Scarab. The golden scarab dreamed of being blue. Blue like the sky, blue like the deepest pools, blue like the other scarabs in the rainforest. It wasn't that he wanted to fit in, it was that he just didn't want to stand out. The other scarabs, too, never let him forget that he looked different to the rest of them. "We've never seen such a ridiculous colour," the others mocked. "You don't look like anything natural. You're not green like the trees, or brown like the earth, and certainly not blue like the sky, or like us." But there was an older beetle, no one knew how old, who had once seen such a colour. "Deep in the jungle," the old scarab clicked, "I have seen a strange place. Perhaps you come from there." And so the scarab went hunting. He found his way by asking all the animals if they'd seen anything in the jungle that matched his golden colour. After a long journey, he reached a cave. He was afraid. The cave was deep and dark, but the tiny scarab continued. Suddenly he thought he spied a fire. How could a fire possibly be burning all the way down here, in this deep and dark cave, the golden scarab wondered. He advanced, and the fiery glow grew nearer and larger. Suddenly the scarab was in a vast room. Most incredibly, the room was filled to the brim with things of the same gold colour as he was. The scarab couldn't believe his eyes. He had spent his entire life being told that his golden colour was worthless, that he was less beautiful than the other green, brown, and blue things. And yet here, someone had gathered together every golden object they could find, it seemed. Clearly because they had thought it was valuable. Clearly because they had thought it was beautiful. He heard a scurrying, and all at once the golden scarab was surrounded by row upon row of beetles of all shapes and sizes, all golden like him. And one blue beetle, who was standing off to the side, slightly away from the others. The golden scarab suddenly had hundreds of friends, all welcoming him, all wanting to hear tales of life among the other beetles in the rainforest. They danced, drank sweet water, and made merry in the golden cave for several moons. The golden scarab particularly enjoyed being with the blue beetle. They were so similar, having grown up looking different to the others. And when the time came for the scarab to marry, he asked the blue beetle. She smiled and replied, "But we're so different. We don't go together." The golden scarab then produced a golden crown he'd found in the golden cave. "Thank you," said the blue beetle, "but how does that solve the problem?" The golden scarab pointed. There, at the center of the crown, was a fabulous jewel, deep blue like the beetle's beautiful shell, with flecks of gold like the scarab's beautiful shell. Everyone agreed that it was the most magnificent gem they had ever seen. The gold scarab and the blue scarab were married and had lots of baby scarabs, some blue, some gold, and one with a blue shell and flecks of gold, just like the jewel in the beautiful crown. The Parable of the Raven. The raven chatted all the time about everything, how they were feeling, what they were doing, where they were going, what they were eating. Chat, 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 tweet, tweet, tweet. They lived in a house with a human mother and father. They had nice things. The raven ate from a silver dish and played with beautiful toys in a garden filled with shiny fruit, and chatted about it. One day the raven chatted about how their mother and father would be away for a few days, and they would be all alone with their silver dish, their beautiful toys, and their shiny fruit. Many animals heard the raven's chatter, and some told more animals about it. That very night, some animals came and stole the raven's silver dish, beautiful toys, and shiny fruit. The raven was scared, and once the robbers had left, the raven was angry. The raven's human mother and father were just pleased to see the raven was unharmed, but the raven began to hatch a plan. "Since everyone listens to my twittering," thought the raven, "then I shall tell a lie and trick them." And the raven chatted about a field that had the juiciest berries, when in fact the raven knew the berries to be sour. The robbers came and got the most awful tummy ache, but so did other animals. Now all the raven had wanted to do was get back at the robbers, but now everyone had been given a tummy ache. Not just the robbers, but the mother and baby sparrows in the tree outside the raven's window as well. So if I can't chat about personal things, and I can't chat about lies to trick my enemies, then what is there left to chat about? First the raven had to cure the sparrow's tummy aches, though. The raven flew all around the garden looking for a cure, even checking inside the pots and pans. Other animals saw the raven and chatted about it. Soon there was a cure, some strange-looking fruit that someone knew about that cured tummy aches. The raven would have loved to chat about cures, but didn't know any. So what did that leave the raven to chat about? What do I have to offer? The bird wondered. Then the raven noticed something twinkling at the bottom of the garden. The raven was always noticing things, finding dropped keys or lost earrings. "That's what I can chat about," exclaimed the raven. "Something I'm actually good at." What a concept. The Parable of the Sea Turtle. A sea turtle lived alone on an island. He fished alone, he ate jellyfish alone, he loved being alone. Sometimes his thoughts became the sky, sometimes they became the sea, sometimes they became the tiny patch of sand he called his home. Everything was perfect. He didn't feel lonely at all. He could stop time if he wanted to. He could stand on the edge of space and not fall. here was heaven, and he, the turtle, was at the center of it. His only fear was that someone would come to disturb his peace. If he saw a ship, he hid. If the tide rose, he climbed to higher ground and waited for it to pass. He prayed that everyone would stay away. Then, in the middle of one dense starry night, many turtles arrived. The beach was suddenly filled with excitement and yelps. The sea turtle hid, watching it all. It was as though 1,000 fireworks were exploding all over his perfect paradise. He tried to stop time, but he couldn't. He knew that if he stood on that side of space, he would fall. He was utterly powerless. He could do nothing but lie in wait and watch the strange goings-on. Finally, exhausted by it, he fell asleep. When he awoke, all the turtles were gone, and the sea turtle wondered if he had dreamed at all. But the disturbances in the sand were unmistakable. The visitors had left patterns of swirls and pockmarks all over the island. The place felt different too. There was a low tremor all around that hadn't been there before. The sea turtle could feel that his destiny and that of the whole island had changed. He also found that he couldn't become the sky as easily anymore, or the sand, or the sea. Something had shifted. He became more curious about passing ships, and would even venture out to swim when the tide was high. A couple of moons later, the sea turtle awoke. He had felt a presence, like a spirit, fly over him. Had the turtles returned? He got up and was greeted by an astonishing sight. The sand was moving all around him, but he didn't hide this time. A few moments later, the sand broke into a mass of tiny turtles, babies freshly hatched. It was a joy, each baby turtle seeing the world for the first time, the world that the sea turtle had made so perfect. And suddenly the sea turtle understood why he had made the island so perfect. It was their cradle. The sea turtle forgot about his comfort and immediately set about helping the babies hatch safely. When all was done, they all sat, gazing up at the beautiful stars in their heavenly paradise. Then the babies started to make their way towards the sea. "Don't leave," squawked the sea turtle. What would happen to them out there? He couldn't make the vast ocean as safe and perfect as his little island. "We'll come back one day," squeaked the babies. "We promise." And indeed they would. Until then, the sea turtle would remain dreaming away on his perfect island until the day his charges returned. The Parable of the Cat. There was a cat who heard everything. She understood every language, even the ones people didn't know existed. Time itself had a language, and she knew that one too. She heard all of the goings-on, decisions in time that chimed like bells, the sound of the string of the universe vibrating like winged instruments or angelic voices. She could hear doors opening and shutting in fate, some leading to exciting new possibilities, others to dead ends. "You know all the paths," said the hippopotamus to the cat, "and you know where they lead. So which one will you choose to take?" The cat blinked enigmatically, then her eyes filled wide with visions of all the paths. If only she could discern the most important voice. She knew this wasn't necessarily the loudest, or the jolliest, or the most solemn. If only she could discern these voices, the way she discerned her favorite foods. She had no trouble doing that. Wait, that was the answer. She she would just need some magic. This wasn't a problem, since she could simply ask for a spell, and the answer for how to do it would be returned immediately by the sound of the universe's vibrating string. So the cat asked, and the universe answered. Using the gifted magic, the cat turned the sounds from the different paths into 10 fine substances and filled 10 cups with these jewels of time. She sniffed them. She discarded the 3 that contained monsters. She didn't want a path with anything scary on it. One cup had a clear, high note, like crystal. It was so pure that the cat found it a little overwhelming, so she discarded that one too. 3 more cups held what the cat described as obvious flavors, and she turned her nose up at them also. This left 2 with the most delicious scents, and 1 that had no scent at all. The cat struggled between the 2 tasty cups. She took a sip from each. They were glorious, one rich, the other clean. She loved them both. She would be happy with either path. She was about to discard the final cup and return to choosing between her 2 favorites, when a question struck her. Why couldn't she smell anything in the final cup? Everything had a smell, even water, even sky. She breathed the final cup deeply and took a sip. Nothing, absolutely nothing. No language, no bells, no vibration. And then she picked up on something. It was new. It was something she'd never tasted, smelled, or heard before. It was a mystery, something undiscovered. She had found her best path. The Parable of the Bee. There were only 10 types of flowers. The bee had collected from all types but one. She knew it to have a purple bloom. She'd heard the special flower could be found around the temple, beneath the golden dome, but she could not find the flower. Try flying widdershins around the temple, suggested a tiny mantis. And when the bee flew widdershins around the temple, she found herself in an upside-down world. The trees were growing with their roots towards the sky. The golden dome was inversed. The sky was water, and the watery lake was now a patch of sky. Only one thing appeared to be growing normally, a flower with a purple bloom, the one the bee had been hunting. She hadn't found it before, since it must have been growing underground. She collected the flower's nectar, and it was crisp, sweet, and yummy. But now that the bee's work was done, her collections of flowers completed, and she had tasted every type of nectar, she wondered, what next? I have tasted every type of flower. I have even seen the world behind the world. What could I possibly do next? She briefly considered laying next to her favorite flower and letting her life drift away peacefully. And for a while, the little bee did lay there, still as could be. Soon the stars came out, and because everything in this widdershins world was upside down, all of the stars were laying on the ground, all around. The bee could simply pick them up. Did they contain nectar? No. When the bee put her head inside the stars, she could see nothing but long, dark tunnels. These stars weren't like flowers, where the bee could try each and every one. No, the bee could only choose one star, one tunnel to go down. But the bee could not decide which one to pick. So she sat there wondering, unable to pick which one star to follow. And I believe she is still sitting there to this day. The Parable of the Wolf. Every wolf was born to a tribe, and every tribe had a destiny. The destiny didn't change, only the tribes did. There were tribes of workers, dreamers, dancers, makers, wolves who took care of everyone, and wolves who did nothing but gaze at the stars and wonder. These lazy, wandering wolves were the strangest of all. They sometimes said nothing for years on end, and then one day would say one thing, and it would change everything. They spoke from the source. They were sorcerers. They dreamed the brightest dreams and the darkest nightmares. They fought shadows no one else could see, and they saw truth, though often they stayed silent about it. They could see the thread of time, and they knew a great secret, that there were different threads, each a different color, matching a different tribe throughout time. Each color danced differently, it glowed differently. A wolf was born to the wrong tribe. It danced differently, it glowed differently. It belonged to a different thread. Its fur was grey, like the others of its tribe, but its colour was wholly different. Thread colour runs deeper than fur and skin. It's the colour of your soul. "What can we do?" asked the wolf's ancestors, for those of the same colour thread shared the same ancestors. One thread was a tribe, connecting all the souls of that tribe. The ancestors decided to send the wolf a dream, showing the path to return to the right colour soul tribe. The wolf received these dreams, but loved the colour tribe it was already in, even though they didn't really understand the wolf's way of dancing and the wolf's way of glowing. They laughed at it. "It's not their fault," argued the wolf, when the ancestors came in the dream. "They're a different tribe. They like to feel elegant. They like to make things pretty." "And what about you?" asked the ancestors. "I like to keep people safe. I like to protect them." "Yes," cried the ancestors, "that is our thread. We protect. You belong with us. Leave them. We will reunite you with our tribe." The wolf thought, "But then, who will protect the pretty tribe?" The ancestors awed over the wolf's kindness, but were firm in their opinion. "They'll never appreciate you. They can't love you like we can. They'll never accept you as one of them." "I'm not one of them," replied the wolf, "so they're right not to pretend that I am. But they need me, and they will appreciate me." Time went by and proved the wolf right. The wolf continued to dance differently and to glow differently, but every time the pretty tribe needed defending, the wolf was there, strong, teeth-bared, protecting them, and their appreciation grew more and more until it became love. The love for a wolf from a different tribe. The love that would one day unite all the tribes into one soul thread and one glorious destiny. The Parable of the Crocodile. Long ago, there was a crocodile who wasn't like the others. Others rolled, he rocked. They chewed on bones, he preferred to chew on stones. Others tasted death, he tasted the dreams of time. One day, a duck saw him chewing on stones and decided to eat some stones too. But the stones gave the duck a terrible tummy ache. "Why do you eat stones?" the duck asked. The crocodile smiled a glowing smile. "It is not the stones I eat, it is the light around them." The sun beamed. The duck tried another stone, but this time he chewed on it. He didn't swallow. He then tried another stone and found that not all stones tasted the same. "I see," said the duck, and he was beginning to see. "I want to find the best tasting stone," said the duck. "So do I," replied the crocodile. And they searched together for the best stone on the river bank. Some stones made their teeth sharper. Some stones made their hearts softer. Some stones were hot. Others were very cold. Then one day they found a little stone, small and dark. Both the crocodile and the duck agreed that it was the best tasting stone. It was salty yet sweet, rich yet pure, and unlike other stones, it didn't become less delicious the more they chewed on it. It gave them the most wonderful dreams of time. This stone tasted like the whole world. "Listen," said the crocodile finally, "we need to do more with the stone than just chew on it." The duck agreed, and so they planted it in the warm, wet soil. They decided not to eat stones anymore, since they had found the best one. Instead, they watched over the patch of soil, making sure that it stayed warm and wet. They talked about the many stones they had seen and about the delicious dreams these had given them. And they waited, in peace and happiness, not eating, living their dreams, living forever. The stone they'd planted became a seed and grew into a vast and magnificent tree. The tree became a forest that spread over the world, and it was filled with animals, fruits, and more seeds. The crocodile and the duck slowly turned to stone themselves, and as far as I know, they are still there, guarding the tree that had grown from a stone that had tasted like the whole world. The Parable of the Eel. Everyone hated the eel. He zapped people with his electric tail. He didn't even say sorry. He wasn't sorry. He swam around the reefs, the islands of seaweed, and he buzzed, electrocuted, and shocked everybody. Nobody liked the eel. Nobody liked to be shocked. Then one day, a cold slab of fish floated up to the island. Now, fish die sometimes, and sometimes they float around for a little while before sinking down into the sand. But this was a big fish, and the others were afraid it could be pretending to be dead, so that it could suddenly spring up and eat all of them. So they decided to trick the electric eel into zapping the big fish. That way, they would know if the fish was truly dangerous, and the worst that could happen was that the fish ate the eel instead. So the eel swam up. He was a little nervous because the others were being so nice to him and he didn't understand why. But he swam up and he did what he did to everyone. He zapped the fish with a bright, sparky jolt of electricity. Immediately, the fish sprang to life. It was a shark. "Please don't eat me, Mr. Shark," cried the eel. But the shark looked at the eel in surprise. "I wouldn't eat you. I was dead, and you just brought me back to life." The other fish were creeping out of their hiding places. Was this true, they wondered? Could the eel's shocks really bring creatures back to life? The shark noticed them. He was feeling a bit hungry, having been dead for a while. "Are these your friends?" the shark asked the eel. After all, he couldn't very well eat the friends of an eel who'd saved his life. The eel thought about it. No, the other creatures weren't his friends. "They don't like it when I shock them," the eel replied. "Well, I didn't particularly enjoy your shock myself," observed the shark, "but it was good for me. Like taking medicine. Brought me to life." The animals wondered whether these unpleasant shocks of electricity could do other useful things. They began to come up with lots of ideas, and they started to realize that the eel was actually very special. The eel began to feel that these were indeed his friends. "Perhaps," pressed the shark, "I could eat just a handful of fish. He really was quite hungry. Some of the little ones, they're not important, you won't miss them." "But little fish become big fish," replied the eel. "Some of them even become sharks and eels just like us. Everyone is important." The shark nodded and swam away, still hungry, but happy that he was alive again, thanks to the zapping, shocking eel.